2022, the Harper family of South Seattle appeared stable and conventional to those around them. 37-year-old David Harper worked as an accountant for a regional freight carrier. His schedule was predictable. He left their Rainier Valley home before sunrise and returned in the evening, often still preoccupied with spreadsheets and client reconciliations. His wife, 38-year-old LaToya Harper, taught fourth grade at a local elementary school. She was known for posting classroom photographs on social media and organizing routine fundraisers such as bake sales. Their 9-year-old daughter, Maya, divided her evenings between homework and weekly dance classes at the community center. Relatives and neighbors generally described the family as steady, church-going, and without outward disruption. Inside the household, however, dynamics were less balanced. LaToya maintained close oversight of her husband's schedule. She regularly checked his calendar, questioned him about lunch companions, and went through his phone when he was showering or asleep. In March 2022, David disclosed information he had withheld for years. He told LaToya that he was gay, that he intended to leave the marriage, and that he had begun a relationship with 35-year-old Corey Bennett, a medical assistant employed at a Capitol Hill clinic. David explained that he wanted to remain a present father to Maya, but the marital relationship was over. LaToya responded first with bargaining, then by citing religious faith, and later by threatening to contact David's employer. Within a week, David moved out of the family home and into a one-bedroom apartment near Corey's workplace, which Corey had recently leased. Following his departure, LaToya's actions showed a pattern of surveillance and fixation. Residents in their neighborhood observed her parked outside Corey's apartment building, sometimes eating in her vehicle while watching the entrance. Corey began receiving direct messages from anonymous accounts, stating, "You are stealing a father," and "This will not stand." Corey reported these communications to the Seattle Police Department. A patrol officer documented the complaint and contacted LaToya by phone, advising her to cease contact.
Welcome to Robinson's Shadow Stories, where mysteries unfold and dark tales come to light. We dive into the enigmatic world of true crime with our meticulously researched stories, chilling reconstructions, and in-depth investigations. Brace yourself for a riveting journey through the minds of our most famous serial killers, through crime stories and cautionary stories about couples who become obsessed in their relationships that one of them is willing to commit a terrible crime in the name of love, the twists that keep you on the edge of your seat. From unsolved mysteries to infamous cases, join us as we navigate the labyrinth of crime, uncovering the secrets that linger in the shadows. Drop your comments below, share your insights, and let's form a community that dives headfirst into the shadows. Together we'll navigate the complexities of these stories, one shadow at a time. So let's dive in.
Despite this warning, LaToya continued to track and document David's new relationship. She maintained a binder labeled Custody, where she collected screenshots of David and Corey's photographs together and made handwritten notes alleging unfit environments. When David and Corey filed for a marriage license in King County that summer, LaToya drove to David's mother's residence in Skyway and asserted that her son had been recruited. Family meals that previously included David, LaToya, and Maya began to occur without them, leaving 2 seats consistently empty. Later that summer, the couple's wedding date became known after a mutual friend mailed a postcard invitation. The card listed a small venue east of Seattle, scheduled for an evening ceremony, with no registry information included. David notified LaToya with a short text message, only specifying the time his sister would handle pickup of Maya after the event. In the weeks leading up to the ceremony, LaToya purchased a black dress and kept it stored in the trunk of her Civic. The venue manager later told investigators that a dark sedan resembling hers circled the property twice during a rehearsal session. On the day of the wedding, Corey's colleagues arrived directly from clinic shifts, still in scrubs. David's extended family arranged folding chairs and assisted with refreshments. The ceremony itself was brief, with vows exchanged in front of relatives and close friends. After the cake was served, David and Corey walked together toward the gravel parking lot. Several attendees reported hearing a female voice call out David's name. This was immediately followed by the sound of a gunshot. Witnesses saw Corey attempt to reach toward David as a second shot discharged, the muzzle flash visible against the hood of a nearby vehicle. Within seconds, the first 911 call was placed, reporting gunfire at the location. Attendees then observed the taillights of a sedan leaving the lot at speed, traveling toward the frontage road. Patrol units from the Seattle Police Department reached the venue minutes after the 911 calls. The parking lot was secured with crime scene tape as officers began triage. David Harper was located near the rear bumper of a sedan, suffering from a penetrating chest wound. His boutonniere had been pressed into gravel during the fall. Officers attempted basic aid until medics arrived. Nearby, Corey Bennett presented with an injury to his left forearm, consistent with powder stippling and a grazing round. He remained conscious and was transported to Harborview Medical Center. SPD Homicide was notified. Sergeant Nia Rucker and Detective Jamal Cole arrived on site to begin interviews. With the reception space unavailable, they conducted statements in a storage room stacked with linens. Across multiple accounts, one name was consistently mentioned: LaToya Harper. Based on that information, Sergeant Rucker issued a regional broadcast describing the vehicle and requested automated license plate reader, ALPR, system checks using the partial plate provided by witnesses. Uniformed officers were dispatched to the Harper residence in Rainier Valley. LaToya's Civic was parked in the driveway with its engine still warm. When officers knocked, LaToya answered the door wearing a robe. She stated that she had been at home all evening with her daughter and her sister, 40-year-old Cheryl Donnell. Approximately 10 minutes later, Donnell arrived at the residence and confirmed that they had watched a movie together that night. Sergeant Rucker asked LaToya whether any firearms were in the residence. LaToya responded that her late father had owned a .38 caliber pistol, which she kept locked in a household safe. She opened the safe for inspection. Inside, detectives observed an empty foam cutout shaped for a compact pistol and a manufacturer's instruction manual. No firearm was present. A routine sweep of the kitchen revealed a receipt in the trash dated earlier that day. It listed purchases of vehicle fuel, wet wipes, and 2 boxes of latex gloves. Officers also examined the Civic's trunk. There they located a pair of black flats coated with light gravel dust, a folded dress bag, and a printed copy of the wedding postcard with the event times highlighted in yellow marker. LaToya asked officers whether she was under arrest. Rucker responded that she was not at that time but requested that LaToya accompany them to the homicide unit for further questioning. LaToya declined without counsel. At Harborview, Corey Bennett was stable enough to provide a statement. He identified LaToya Harper by name as the shooter. Crime scene technicians recovered one spent casing marked .38 special from the lot surface and a second casing adjacent to a vehicle where paint transfer was visible. Both items were packaged for ballistic examination. Digital forensics personnel began reviewing devices collected from the Harper residence. A laptop belonging to LaToya contained cached searches for map directions to Cedar Ridge Commons, the wedding venue, and how far is muzzle flash visible. A phone located in her purse included a video dated 1 week earlier showing a silhouetted figure firing rounds at glass bottles along the shoreline at Seward Park's South Lot during dusk hours. The following morning, ALPR data produced multiple hits of LaToya's Civic traveling eastbound on Interstate 90 in the direction of the venue within the time frame of the shooting. Additional records showed the vehicle returning westbound approximately 1 hour later. Based on the cumulative evidence, Rucker prepared a warrant application for further search and seizure at the Harper property. Before the warrant was executed, a neighbor submitted a tip via text message to the department's line. The neighbor reported observing LaToya loading a tote from her garage earlier in the week. He added that she often carried a spiral notebook labeled Plan. This information was forwarded immediately to the detectives. Detectives Nia Rucker and Jamal Cole executed the search warrant on the Harper residence before noon the following day. Entry was made without incident. The garage contained the tote bag that the neighbor had previously reported. Inside the tote, investigators located black flats with pale gravel adhered to the soles, a folded garment bag containing a black sheath dress, and a spiral notebook with the word plan embossed on the cover. Under alternate light source testing, faint specks on the dress fluoresced, suggesting the presence of biological material. The notebook contained printed driving directions to Cedar Ridge Commons, the wedding venue. Additional pages included a hand-drawn diagram of the parking lot and a checklist listing specific actions: fuel gloves, white wheel, park back road. These items indicated structured preparation. A gun cleaning kit was found on a workbench in the same garage. The foam insert in the household safe recovered during the previous visit was compared to the shape of a compact .38 caliber semi-automatic pistol. The cutout matched in dimensions. A warranty card in the safe listed the same make and model, with the serial number written by hand. The Civic underwent detailed processing. Crime scene analysts documented fine grit embedded in the vehicle's floor mats. Mineral comparison later determined consistency with gravel taken from the venue parking lot. Swabs from the steering wheel and interior door handle tested positive for primer gunshot residue. Investigators conducted a separate interview with 9-year-old Maya at the Child Advocacy Center. Maya stated that during the movie, Aunt Cheryl went to get snacks, and that her mother left for a phone call and came back later. This contradicted LaToya's earlier account that she remained home throughout the evening. Further review of neighborhood surveillance corroborated Maya's statement. A doorbell camera recorded the Civic leaving the driveway at 7:52 p.m. and returning at 9:11 p.m., aligning with the timeline of the shooting and subsequent disposal of evidence. Attention then turned to Cheryl Donnell's claimed alibi. Cell phone records placed her in a rideshare vehicle across town during the relevant period. Confronted with this information, she admitted she had not remained at the residence the entire evening and had left Maya briefly unattended. LaToya was brought to SPD headquarters. She declined to waive her rights and requested legal counsel. Before questioning ceased, she stated, "I only wanted to talk." He grabbed Corey and the gun went off. This account conflicted with video evidence. Venue footage showed Corey moving toward David after the initial shot, not before. 2 days later, divers recovered a .38 caliber semi-automatic pistol from a retention pond at Seward Park. The location was identified after forensic review of LaToya's browser history, which contained a query-forged depth-to-sink metal. Ballistic comparison matched the firearm to the bullet jacket extracted from David Harper's chest. Tool mark examination linked the same weapons extractor marks to the 2 spent casings recovered from the wedding parking lot. LaToya's phone contained a video dated 1 week before the homicide. The recording showed a person firing at bottles positioned on driftwood along the shoreline at Seward Park. The video had been captured in slow motion and was stored in her personal gallery. Investigators reconstructed the route using multiple data sources. ALPR cameras logged the Civic traveling eastbound on Interstate 90 toward Cedar Ridge Commons. A cell tower geofence recorded a brief connection in the sector covering the venue during the shooting time frame. Later, the same vehicle was logged westbound, with location data placing it near Seward Park before returning to the Harper residence. Although Cheryl possessed an older spare key to the Harper home, she denied any involvement in planning or carrying out the offense. Detectives determined her conduct was limited to attempting to provide LaToya with a false alibi. Prosecutors reviewed the evidence and filed charges including aggravated murder for the killing of David Harper, citing premeditation, and attempted murder for the gunshot directed at Corey Bennett. Additional counts were prepared related to evidence tampering and firearms violations. When detectives informed LaToya of the charges, she displayed minimal reaction. She stated only, "He promised me we'd be a family." At that point, Sergeant Rucker placed a planned notebook on the interview table, open to the highlighted entry reading, "Wait until cake, fewer people outside." Intake staff applied handcuffs as LaToya was booked into the King County Jail pending arraignment. The trial of LaToya Harper opened in King County Superior Court in late 2023. Prosecutors presented their case in a sequential order designed to establish presence, means, and intent. The first witnesses focused on technical corroboration. A technician from the wedding venue authenticated the external camera feed. The recording showed the Civic entering the property, brake lights engaging, and a figure stepping out wearing a black dress. Multiple wedding guests were then called to testify, and each identified the figure as LaToya Harper. Medical testimony followed. The King County Medical Examiner reported that David Harper had sustained a single gunshot wound that penetrated the chest and traversed the right ventricle of the heart. The examiner described the injury as fatal within minutes. Forensic examination of Corey Bennett's forearm identified soot and stippling, consistent with a shot discharged at close range. This supported the account that a second round had been fired while Corey was reaching toward David's body. Firearms evidence was introduced. The state's ballistics examiner confirmed that the .38 caliber semi-automatic pistol recovered from the retention pond matched the bullet jacket removed from David Harper's body, as well as the two casings collected from the wedding lot. Corrosion markings on the firearm were consistent with approximately 48 hours of submersion in fresh water, aligning with the search history indicating disposal at Seward Park. A trace evidence analyst then testified that the sheath dress collected from LaToya's garage floor rest under alternate light testing and contained microscopic spatter consistent with blood. Mitochondrial DNA analysis matched the profile to David Harper. A geospatial specialist presented a timeline combining 3 independent data sources: ALPR hits on the Civic, cell tower sector activity, and doorbell camera timestamps. When overlaid, the data created a precise route from the Harper residence to the venue, then to Seward Park, and back home. This timeline directly contradicted LaToya's claim that she had remained at the house throughout the evening. The prosecution further emphasized motive. The jury was shown the spiral plan notebook containing diagrams and checklists. They were also presented with the binder labeled custody, which included screenshots of Corey Bennett's clinic work hours, the couple's marriage license filing, and handwritten notes alleging David was unfit to parent. The state argued that these materials demonstrated an intent that went beyond jealousy and into structured planning. The defense centered on emotional disturbance. Counsel argued that LaToya was confronted with the abrupt end of a 12-year marriage and acted in a state of shock. They emphasized her lack of criminal history and claimed the firearm had discharged unintentionally during a confrontation. They also disputed that she intended to injure Corey Bennett. On cross-examination, Corey testified about prior threatening messages, including voicemails where LaToya warned, "I will end this." He confirmed he had reported 2 separate incidents to SPD earlier in the year. LaToya's sister, Cheryl Donnell, was also called. She admitted to giving false statements about the night of the wedding, explaining she was not ready to see my niece lose both parents. Key digital exhibits were replayed for the jury. These included the slow-motion practice video recovered from LaToya's phone showing target shooting at bottles along the Seward Park shoreline, and the surveillance clip of her exit from the wedding venue. Both were viewed multiple times during deliberations. In rebuttal, prosecutors highlighted specific actions recorded in the notebook: the purchase receipt for gloves and wipes, and the internet search regarding disposal of metal objects in water. They noted the pause between the first and second shot, describing it as evidence of intentional targeting, first at David Harper, then at Corey Bennett. The escape route via the less-used back road was presented as further proof of prior reconnaissance. The jury deliberated for a day and a half. The verdicts were as follows: guilty of second-degree murder with a firearm enhancement for the death of David Harper, guilty of first-degree assault with a deadly weapon for the round discharged at Corey Bennett, guilty of witness tampering in connection with the false alibi attempt, and unlawful possession of a firearm due to failure to declare the inherited weapon as required under a probate surrender regime. The presiding judge imposed a sentence of 28 years for the murder count, with additional consecutive terms totaling 8 years for the firearm enhancement and the assault conviction. The court cited the calculated nature of the crime, the presence of numerous witnesses, and the danger created in a public gathering as aggravating factors. A permanent no-contact order was issued prohibiting LaToya from contacting Corey Bennett or members of David Harper's family. Guardianship of Maya Harper was transferred to David's sister under court supervision, with provisions for counseling and access to victim compensation resources. After sentencing, Sergeant Rucker summarized the investigation as a progression from a binder of custody notes into a playbook for homicide. She stated that the timeline of digital evidence had removed space for ambiguity. Corey Bennett attended the hearing with his arm still in a sling and provided no public statement. The venue manager, who had earlier reported the circling sedan during rehearsal, later processed a refund of the unused rental deposit.